Hi guys, today I want to talk about how to control Falcon's jumps and the tech skill involved in them. And the reason I'm going over this first is because I do believe that this is the most fundamental tech skill for Falcon. If you ask me what you should be practicing as a new Falcon main or what you should be focusing on in your career, I'm going to refer you to this video because this is the most important thing for you to be good at. This is the most important thing for you to master. The other aspect to this is basically controlling your dash dance and using all the control that you have over your dash dance in conjunction with what I show you in this video to gain the most control over your character. And I want to give a special shout outs to Zoo and Cactuar and their channel Smash Practice, because they recently made a very good video explaining exactly how the mechanics of dash can be used to extend the ranges that you can remain in it, and that video goes very well with my video. So I'm going to first talk about the analog aspect of jumps. Basically, if I were to imagine that my control stick represents an x-axis from 0, where it currently is, to -10, which would just be in one direction, and 10, which would just be in another direction. There's a certain frame during your character's jump squat, the second to last, which basically allows you to determine how that jump is going to or it lets you determine the initial velocity of the jump and the trajectory of the jump. So I'm going to show you that jump squat frame in the game. If you look at the top white text, that shows you what my character's animation is. Need-in is jump squat. The second to last frame would be the third one, so 0 is 1, 1, 2, 3. If I hold fully forward in this time, the character will jump fully forward. If I were to hold fully backwards, he would jump fully backwards. But also, if I hold amounts in between during that one specific frame, the character will jump less forward or less backwards if you choose for him to. You can test this by yourself and feel it out, but it's very important to be able to choose those spaces very quickly and effectively. Now, I also want to talk about how this is in dash jump, and how it's a little bit different than when you're doing what I call a neutral jump, which is just jumping from a standing animation. When you do a dash jump, if you do dash jump analog fully forward, despite not using any drift forward, your character will reach his... Oops, I accidentally did an aerial, so now I want to restart it. Your character will still reach his max distance. Let me see again here. So release to neutral. Oh wow, I can't believe I messed up twice. Alright, this time I got it. Anyways, release to neutral, and it goes his max distance. This is different than a neutral jump, because if you do a neutral jump and you analog fully forward but don't drift, you're not going to get your full distance. Again, you can test this yourself because I don't want to take up too much time on the YouTube video, but that's not the case with the dash jump forward. You don't need to hold forward after you choose to dash jump fully forward, but you do if you choose to dash jump less than fully forward. If I were to do an analog jump with 0 analog out of a dash jump, it would only bring me this far. But if I combine it with drift, so no analog, but then before I'm airborne, I start drifting, he will go a farther distance than the jump I just did, by a very slight amount, but still something. Now, it's also to be noted that if I choose different distances during the analog, like if I were to choose partially there, he won't get all the way to Fox. I do partially there and then no drift. He won't get all the way there. So you can choose most of your distance through just this second to last frame of jump squat, and it's called your analog jump. Now, immediately after an analog jump, you need to transition to your aerial. So this is the analog jump frame. It passes. Now you've already committed to a certain spacing of your jump, and you have to do your aerial. The important thing to notice is that if you're doing nair, you have to release your stick to neutral. Your control stick must not be holding in your analog jump distance anymore, and you have to be able to do your nair. And then immediately after choosing your aerial, as soon as you're airborne, you can begin drifting and having an effect on your momentum. Now, I want to go over one thing specifically. Let me get this laptop camera a little bit higher up. I want to go over one thing specifically. If you do a neutral jump to show that you're not backflipping, it's a very good way to show how good you are at getting your drift timing, because if you start your drift perfectly before you're airborne, your character will build up a lot of momentum backwards, and he will, before he lands, have gained a lot of speed backwards, which also means traveling backwards during his landing animation. So that's pretty important and easy to practice in person to make sure that you're good at timing your drifts, and you can of course do it with your up airs or your aerials as well. Now, I also want to talk about all the ways that you can access your neutral jump in your dash animation, or there's also another scenario. So the first one is a pivot jump, which looks like this. This is basically done by it's only a timing sequence. Let's say I'm dashing to the left. In order to do a pivot jump to the right, I must hold to the right or dash to the right for one frame, and then press jump with timing relative to my dash back motion. And if I do so correctly, I'll get my neutral jump, which again allows me access to the analog aspect of it. So I can pivot jump forward if I would like to, or I could have pivot jumped backwards, or I could have pivot jumped any distance in between. So the second way to do it is to do a shield stop and jump out of your shield. That also only takes one frame and also allows you to neutral jump out of your dash stance. Now, the method that I use for this is I start up my dash, and then I begin to flick my C-stick upwards. Oops, I accidentally pressed the wrong thing or something, I don't know. So, start a dash, begin to press C-stick upwards, and then after I press C-stick, if I press shield, watch how the shield will come out for one frame, and then he will immediately jump out of it because I'm holding C-stick up, and that buffers it. Again, I get access to my analog jump, and I can choose to make the jump however I want. The next thing that I want to note is basically why you would use these momentum stops in neutral as opposed to a normal dash jump. The most important reasons are that you can go farther backwards with your neutral jump than you can with your dash jump. If I was to run forward and shield stop and fully jump backwards, that's more distance than if I dash jump and pull backwards as far as I can. And same goes with pivot. If I pivot jump away from him, which I guess I can't do on command, but if I pivot jump away from him, I will also gain more distance back. But there's also one more thing to note. If I do a dash jump into a character, during my jump squat frames, which I'll start right now, I continue to slide forward into him. Now, I'm not saying that this is better or worse, but I'm saying that it's different and it needs to be noted. You're going to have a different spacing of your dash jump, and it's going to inevitably have a different spacing of where your hitbox comes out because of the amount of space you spent sliding forward during your jump squat. This is a lot different than when you run forward and you do some kind of momentum stop like shield, and then when you're jumping, your jump squat frames, you're not moving forward at all, and you have suddenly stopped in place. So basically, those are things to think about. I would say that you might want to dash jump when you're trying to capitalize on the frame advantage that you have over somebody and you want to stuff something with your nair or your up air. But when you want to remain in a controlled distance outside of their threat range, you might use momentum stops. The last thing I want to talk about is ways that I practice it. The first thing that I do, and the most important drill I do, is basically I try to dash differing amounts away from the ledge and get a pivot jump or a dash jump backwards to ledge cancel on the ledge, because this allows me not only to control my pivot jump timing, but it also allows me to practice all my different analog jumps from different spacings. And another thing to note is the max distance that you can dash jump to the ledge, and make sure that you're practicing at least from that far. You should be able to dash jump from all of these different distances, and you should be able to pivot jump to about here. So do your pivot forward jump from about this range, a little bit farther. Also, if you go on these platforms, if I do a neutral jump fully analog forward, it is about the same range as that platform itself. So you can see it there. It basically ledge cancels. Oh, I also have one thing that I forgot to mention. Another way to access this neutral jump is out of any kind of lag that you have, you do what's called a smash turn. Basically, a smash turn can be emphasized by showing what happens if I do an L canceled up air, or I guess I missed L cancel, but if I do an up air and I just hold backwards during that lag, my character will begin to turn around. But during this turning around animation, if I try to press jump before it ends on the 7th frame and I'm doing it on the 6th, it will still turn me around to the left. This applies to jump and shield. The way to circumvent this and access a neutral jump immediately after you do something like an aerial is to time your dash back or your pivot motion for when you're out of lag, so that you get immediate pivot, which looks like turn, and then you can just do your jump and get that neutral jump that you wanted. This is very important for turning around fast out of lag immediately. And again, it's another piece of tech skill that I don't quite have on lock yet, but it's very important. Another application that I can think of for it is if you would like to do something like dash as far as you can into your run and do a crouch, so that you can do a smash turn after you've crouched. You time your dash back, do a turn, and then interrupt that with your jump, and then wave dash back to the ledge. I think that this would probably be a very fast way to get to the ledge from across the stage. And I think that these are all the ways that you can access your neutral jump out of your dash and out of your lag, and those are all the aspects that go into controlling your jump. So this is what you guys need to practice, this is what you need to drill home, and this is how you get that crazy sick mango spacing shield pressure.